Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be going through my tips from round 20 as well as tipping for round 21 of the AFL season. So let's just jump straight into it. So as you can see here, I ended up getting a 6 out of 9 round for round 20. Which was all right. It wasn't the greatest, but it was still pretty good, as I am actually slipping down the ranked a little bit. 338,000, I believe. Maybe that's, if I just look here quietly, I actually dipped a little bit, so it shows that it wasn't the best round for me. A lot of people would have tipped GWS, which would have got them above me, I think. But yeah, that wasn't the greatest round in the end. But anyway, I tipped Hawthorn by 50 and they won by 24, so I was 26 points off there. That was a relatively easy tip. The tips this round weren't, I guess, for the most part, the hardest. There was a couple of obviously upsets with the Brisbane one, and then I did tip my boys in Sydney and in the derby there, and they lost that one. That was a major probably upset there. And then a line ball 50-50 game between sort of Melbourne and St Kilda just took the goods basically because they have the best player in the last couple of weeks in Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera running around. Western Bulldogs, I tipped them by 70 and they ended up winning by 93. So that was a decent enough tip. And then Sydney just basically checked out at halftime and lost this one. They were up 50-15 and then conceded, I believe, an 85 to or an 87 to 8 run or something of that regard. It might have been 50-17, but it was something of that 85, 87 to 8 run, which was really, really bad considering as well that they kicked a goal early in the third. And that was the last goal they kicked. They got it to, I think, 56-23, I want to say, or 56-29, I should say. And then it was 73-2. The run to end the game, which was not a good sign. So I ended up tipping them by 15. They lost by 44, which means a 59 point off there. And yeah, the margin really starts to blow out in the next couple of games. Brisbane, I tipped them by 20 in their derby as well, their Q Clash, and they lost it by 66 points, 86 points off in the tip. That was a really bad tip. And that tip itself was almost more of an off margin than some of my full rounds previously. Just goes to show how big some of these games were in flipping it. And then you've got as well Fremantle. They won against West Coast in their derby by 49 points. I tipped them by 40. So the best tip of the, second best tip of the round. Only 9 points off there. So holding my margin somewhat to some respectability. And then Geelong, I tipped them by 50 because I thought North Melbourne would be somewhat of a semblance of a side. And then North Melbourne just switched off in the first 3 quarters. And it was a 106 point margin at 3/4 time or something like that. And I think they even won the last quarter, North Melbourne, to put some, well, there's no respectability you can put on a score when you're trailing by 100 at 3/4 time. So yeah, they lost by 101 points to Geelong, and I tipped Geelong by 50, so I was 51 points off in that tip there, further blowing out that margin. And then you have Adelaide. I thought the showdown, their derby, that they would sort of win relatively comfortably, but not as obviously as comfortably as the outcome actually became, because they ended up winning by 98 points. And I only tipped them by 35. So that was a 63 point differential there, which further blows out that cumulative margin. And then you've got Collingwood against Richmond. I tipped Collingwood by 45 and they ended up winning by 38. I thought Richmond put up some respectability there. I'm pretty sure they fell away late, did Richmond, but yeah, pretty good effort from them. And so Collingwood, I was 7 points off there, slowing down that cumulative margin. And then you've got St Kilda coming from the absolute clouds to steal that, basically because they just kicked the ball to the best player in the game in the last recent bit in Wanganeen-Milera, and he did everything else. So I tipped Melbourne by 22. If you were looking at that in the last quarter, you'd say, oh, St Kilda can kick a couple goals to get back to that 20-odd point margin. But nope, St Kilda went one better. Greatest comeback after 3/4 time in a game, and they won. I tipped Melbourne by 22. They lost by 6, so I was 28 points off there. And then we get to round 21. Now, we do have quite a lot of teams that are basically on, I would say, almost on ice in terms of who they've got, etc. So there are going to naturally be blowouts, I feel like. But this is an all right game to start the round. You got Western Bulldogs against GWS at Marvel Stadium. GWS do, if we just look at their AFL lineups, because we can look at the Thursday games. If we look at the AFL lineups for these, Western Bulldogs unchanged, and the GWS Giants bring back a couple guys for the injured and suspended crew. This is a massive 8-pointer. This game, I'm going to say it right now, if we just look at the ladder here, this game is probably going to decide who makes or breaks the 8 if we are just looking at it seriously, because if we think about it, Gold Coast Suns have an extra game against Essendon. They're going to win that by 40, 50, 60 points. That's going to jump them into effectively 5th spot. So this game is effectively being played by 7th versus 9th. And if Western Bulldogs lose this, final's over. Final's over for them. They are not catching 8 points with 3 rounds to go against the likes of Fremantle, who might have a winnable game. If we look at it, who have a winnable game against Carlton with Curnow and Chera out, as well as Doherty retiring. That's 3 big outs. So they're going to win and put that back up to potentially, it's effectively, if we look at it, Hawthorn's going to be in 8th space by the end of the round, I suspect, if GWS wins. And they're going to be on 52 points. And then you're going to have Western Bulldogs on 44. So it's going to come down to Hawthorn versus Western Bulldogs for 8th place, because Hawthorn, I don't think, has the greatest run in here. If we just think about that logically, they've got Collingwood, could catch up. And then they also, in round 24, is that round 23? They've got, where are we looking here? They've got Melbourne, they'll win that. So they're going to get to 56 points. And then you've got, in round 24, they have got Brisbane. So they're going to get to 56 points. And it's just a matter of, do Western Bulldogs have enough to get them to the, do Western Bulldogs have enough winnable games, I should say, to get them up towards it. They've got Melbourne as well, so they'll clear 48. And then they've got, who else are they? They've got the West Coast Eagles. And then in the final round, they've got Fremantle. So this game, as well as the game against Fremantle for the likes of Western Bulldogs, is basically where their finals lay. If they lose both of them, they are not making it in. If they win one of them, they probably sneak in. But yeah, they really need to. But it would rely on Hawthorn losing quite a lot of games, which they could potentially actually just win. So yeah, it's kind of 2 teams that I think are very much in the same vein, are teams that struggle. That don't really live it up, I think, to the best. I know that the GWS just beat Sydney, but I don't think Western Bulldogs beat teams above them. And I know GWS is above them, but I don't think also GWS can. I know they're in decent form. They beat Geelong a couple of weeks ago, which was a really good win, but they've beaten some teams that just are really just around them or below them in the ladder. I do think that the Western Bulldogs, just with their firepower, get this one done by 15 points, but it's going to be an awfully tight one and massive deciding factor in finals race. And then we've got Adelaide against Hawthorn. This one, I think Adelaide, just with the way that they're playing at the moment, Hawthorn did defeat Carlton by 24 points, but Adelaide went and absolutely decimated Port Adelaide in a derby game, in a showdown game. So I'm going to go with Adelaide in this one by 22 points and put both Hawthorn and Western Bulldogs on a rocky course to make finals. One of them's going to have to steal a big game, it feels like, to solidify finals. And then you've got not Western Bulldogs. You got Melbourne versus the West Coast Eagles. Part of me wants to go the West Coast Eagles just because, but it's like, if Harley Reid was playing, I think this would be more like a 90-10 game, and I'd be more considering of the Eagles. I just don't know if they have the firepower now with their midfield group so depleted and everything. Whereas Melbourne, I think they get the jump here. I know that Stephen May out is a big loss, but the West Coast Eagles just don't have any firepower. It doesn't feel like any real big winnable talent. So I'm just going to go the likes of Melbourne here by, I think, 19 points there. And then you've got Gold Coast against Richmond. I think Gold Coast absolutely slammed this one home. And this is why I was saying that they almost are going to be naturally I mean, if Fremantle lose this weekend, who have got Carlton, so that's not going to happen. But Gold Coast are going to be in 6th and naturally could even go higher. I mean, we're looking at Geelong's going to win, so that's not going to matter. But they could easily run it close, just thinking about it. If Geelong had a lower percentage, they'd run it close to top 4 Gold Coast at this present time. But they're going to win here against Richmond. I could easily see them winning here by the 60 or so point marker, just because Richmond do look a little bit deflated. Even though they put up a fight against Collingwood, they sort of, I think it's like that. They've actually won the last couple of weeks. They won against the Eagles and they won against Essendon, not the greatest teams. I feel like the 2 easiest teams to play at the moment. And they lost to Geelong pretty convincingly and Adelaide pretty convincingly. So I think Gold Coast will do the same. Sydney, I think they get the chocolates over Essendon. Essendon debuting a 14th player this year. Sydney probably debuting 2 this week in Paddy Snell and Detoli, but we'll see when teams are released. But yeah, I have a feeling that Sydney are able to put a pretty decent marker down. They aren't going to make finals. And the thing of the matter is, at the moment, just looking at it, Port Adelaide are going to lose to Geelong. I have a feeling that. And so Sydney can almost just play and win and just, yeah, and blood these youngsters and not really have any consequences because they're going to be in 10th. Sydney is pretty much locked into 10th. And there's also no point going up into 9th anyway because you just lose draft capital almost in a way across your picks. But yeah, Sydney, I have a feeling, put a number on Essendon and win it by 50. And then you got Collingwood against Brisbane. This one's an interesting one. Collingwood beat Richmond. Brisbane are going to be looking for absolute blood after what happened. So I'm actually going to go against the grain and go Brisbane in this one by 10 points. I think Collingwood have quite a few outs as well, whereas Brisbane don't really. So that's why I'm going to go Brisbane. Wouldn't shock me, obviously, if the favourite Collingwood wins, but I think I like the underdog more in this one, whereas every other game is pretty much a top side against the bottom side. St Kilda against North Melbourne. St Kilda riding the high. Wanganeen Malira is performing really well. North Melbourne still don't have Cherry, so I think that flips it almost even lower. So North Melbourne obviously could win, but I just have a feeling that St Kilda are able to pull this one out by 19 points. It won't be as high scoring, I don't think. Geelong, they win against Port Adelaide. I think that one's going to be pretty convincing. I wouldn't be surprised if this one is another absolute bashing. So I'm going to go Geelong by 56 points. And then you've got the likes of, for Fremantle to beat Carlton, I'm going to go Freo in this one by 33 points. I don't think they absolutely demolish Carlton, but I think that they win pretty convincingly. But those are the tips there going through round 21, as well as reviewing my tips from round 20. If you guys did enjoy, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and I will see you guys later. And on there'll probably be a video Friday. That I'll record these both on Thursday, but there'll be a video released on Friday, as well as on Sunday or Saturday, with more AFLW content, and then you will see my team review from AFL Fantasy on Sunday night post games. So I'll see you guys then. Bye guys.